See, wait for it to go live. There'll be a little delay, but we are live.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, NosillaCastaways.
Hi. Hi, everybody.
Good to be back.
Can you see us? See, no one was in the chat room. He was hiding from me. Oh, hello,
That's good.
Kevin. Oh, roll call. He's right. It is time for roll call.
Good
We've got
timing, Ellen.
Alan and Aaliyah and Kevin and Bruce and Mike and Jill and Lindsay the daughter and Ed and let's see, John, Rose and Rick, Sandy, Steve, Michael, and Nolan is lurking somewhere. He's not in the he's not where he can listen, but maybe he's watching on the YouTubes. And I got Grumpy, yes. All right. Well, we've done a test recording. Should we just head right in, or did you want to talk about, I don't know, Falcon 9 rockets, or what you got?
We had a Falcon Heavy launch today that was successful, but they're starting to become commonplace, so we won't.
It was pretty, though.
Yeah, it's always cool to see two side boosters land close to one another successfully. That's a great sight.
Yeah, well, they didn't keep the camera on both of them at the same time. I was mad. One of them looked like it was going at about a 45-degree angle. I thought we were going to get to see an explosion, but evidently not. No, I'm not going to say pee-pee tonight, but that was fun last time, huh? All right, well, my voice is actually already starting to crumble again, so let me go ahead and start. Here we go. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeet.com, a technology geek podcast with an ever so slight Apple bias. Today is Sunday, January 15th, 2023, and this is show number 923. Well, this is the last live show recording before we head off to Antarctica. The next live show will be on February 5th. Now, I'm going to remind you again at the end of the show, but I'm betting that most of you have never even heard the end of the show, right? So remember, no live show for the next 2 weeks. Anyway, we're super excited and we're mostly packed, but it's an interesting packing exercise because we'll be 4 days in 85-degree Buenos Aires and Iguazu Falls in Argentina, but then we'll also be in Antarctica for 9 days where it's currently 1 degree. So we're packing bathing suits, flip-flops, shorts, t-shirts, long underwear, 3 pairs of gloves, snow pants, goggles, and ski hats. And remember, that 1 degree weather is summer in Antarctica. But anyway, enough about our wild adventure. I'm sure I'm going to bore you about it enough when we get back. I want to thank Stephen Getz, Bruce from Tennessee, and Jill from the North Woods for the tremendous content they sent in that will help Alistair and Bart's jobs for the next 2 weeks be much easier. Alistair's also done something fun. He created a 3-part series, the first of which I get to play for you today. Bart will be playing part 2, and then Alistair will play part 3. It makes me so happy that these wonderful folks have come through for us so Steve and I can go on vacation without worry. Now, when I get back, I'll have 3 days to get the next show out, and 2 of those days will be down at Lindsay's house to pick up our dog Tesla from them. With the grandkids, getting any writing done there is pretty much not happening. So if you had a great idea and you just didn't get around to sending it in, I'd love to play it for the audience when I get back. Luckily, the awesome Bodie Grimm of the Kilowatt podcast got to go to CES this year, and I can't believe that we missed when he was there. But anyway, he sent in 3 great interviews for the show. I'll be playing those when I get back. All right, enough faffing about. Let's get started with the show.
That's good. I was about to say, because apparently you wrote that last paragraph in later. I was about to say, what about Bodie's input?
How did you remember that?
I just listened to his 4th release of the CES episodes. And he mentions that he provides you some input for your show.
Well, don't tell him that I totally forgot, but I found him in my list of stuff, and I'm like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So
that will help things a lot.
All right. So let's see. Now the first one, we need a tiny tip music and a chapter mark. And copy link. And I copy the second time and it doesn't do anything. And I'll copy. Whoops. That's the wrong one. The wrong one. This one's first. Copy link. Actually, I should copy. Here we go. And then I don't think that works. Copy link. There we go. All right, doing it by hand. So this is this one first. All right, here we go. Well, I was chatting with Helma from the Netherlands about the travelogue I write during our world travels. It's all the rage with over 100 people opting in to receive this amazing document. The travelogue is low on facts, high on humor, and includes photos that show the fun of our adventures. I've done them for places like India, Iceland, and New Zealand, and I'm doing one for our Antarctica trip. Helma even asked to be on distribution, and I swear I did not twist her arm into asking. Anyway, I use Apple Contacts to add people to a list called Vacation Emails, and then I use Apple Mail to send that list. No, and I use Apple. Anyway, I use Apple Contacts to add people to a list called Vacation Emails, and then I use Apple Mail to send to that list. I should mention that Apple used to call these groups, not lists, and that information will become useful in a moment. She asked me if I could make sure that the emails go to her Gmail address, not her Apple Mail address, because it's been acting up lately. I explained that there is no way for me to control that. Apple doesn't let you designate a main address or even reorder the addresses in hopes that maybe it picks the one at the top. I would have to delete her other address, so Gmail was the only option it could choose. Helma explained that you actually can tell a contacts list which email address to use for a specific person, and this tiny tip was born. In Contacts, go to the Edit menu and choose Edit Distribution List. Now, there's a chance it will be grayed out, and this is a bug that's been happening in Contacts that I didn't know about until it happened to Lindsay, and then it happened to me when I was trying to set this up. But anyway, if it's grayed out, just quit and go right back in, and it won't be grayed out. So Edit Distribution List. When the window opens to Edit Distribution List, highlight the list you want to edit in the left sidebar. Now, note that the sidebar is entitled Group instead of List, so I guess they didn't update this interface when they made the name change. I think it's a bad change and Group was a better name, but they didn't ask me. Anywho, if you select the list/group you need to fix, you'll see each person in the list with their email showing in another column. One of their email addresses will be bold. Now, back at the bottom of the window, Apple explains, bold highlighting indicates the email, phone, or address that will be used for a group member. Simply click once on the address you'd prefer to be used, and it will change to bold, indicating the change has been made. Tap OK, and the change will be saved. Now, Helma and I ran a controlled experiment where I created a group list with just her in it with her two addresses. I emboldened one and sent an email to the list, and then I emboldened the second one and sent another email to the same list. Mail.app correctly sent the emails to the emboldened address. Now, I can't tell you how long this has been a problem for me, but I can tell you that I am delighted to know this tiny tip now. Many thanks to Helma for giving it to us.
I feel emboldened with that tiny tip.
So many people have noticed that this is a great one.
Yeah. Thank you, Helma.
I did not know that was there. She said, I've always known this. I was didn't know anybody else didn't know it. Okay, I'm going to do another tiny tip. And this one is, I guess first I have to do this and go get this second tiny tip. Oh, like an animal. I don't have to do the tiny tip music twice, but
no,
it's funny.
Kind of redundant.
All right. Why did I not hear the music? Did you guys hear the music just now?
No.
What's going on?
Nothing.
Don't do that. I'm going to quit and go back in. It's going to irritate your...
Frank, welcome.
Which flavor of Frank have we got tonight?
Wheels.
Wheels Frank? I mean, not that I don't love all Franks, but, yay!
Wheels is so rare.
Nice to see you. All right, I would like to hear the music this time.
Uh-oh.
What?
I think I deleted...
No. I had to quit.
Never. Okay.
Yeah.
But you'll need to reshare.
I am resharing, and you'll need to reshare it, but I would like to hear if the music's going to play. Hi, this is Al. Okay, well, that's playing back. Let's put the cursor here. What is going on?
Is that muted?
The music track, no, it's not.
Is it on the same track as the previous jingle?
Yes.
Go back and see if the previous one
No, but the beginning isn't playing. It's not playing it either. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast. I hate buggy software.
What if you just play with the volume, set it down and then bring it up again, just tickle it?
NosillaCast podcast, hosted at Podfeed. Oh, there it is. I don't know if you can see right there, that S, that means solo track. .com. There it is.
There we go.
Okay. Whew. It just gets tickled sometimes. Saving. Okay. Oh, gotta bring the tiny tip up now. Yes, that music means we have a second tiny tip, and this is a very quick one, but it is another fan favorite. Have you noticed that a whole lot of websites have suddenly started having an annoying pop-up from Google asking, do you want to sign in to the site with Google? If you haven't seen it, go to reddit.com without signing in, and you'll see it there. It's giant, and it says, quote, use your Google account to sign into Reddit. No more passwords to remember. Signing in is fast, simple, and secure, unquote. So overlooking their lack of an Oxford comma in the pop-up, it's super irritating to have to keep dismissing these pop-ups. They're all over the place right now. Now, the good news is that if you have a Google account, there's a setting to opt out of these annoying pop-ups. Now, I think if you're not logged into a Google account, you don't see these pop-ups. At least in my tests, I didn't. So I'm hoping those without Google accounts don't get them because they'd have no way to opt out. I want to thank Ricky Mondello on hackyderm.io for posting the solution to this annoyance on Mastodon. Here's the steps that Ricky Mondello explained in his toot. First, go to any Google service and log in using your avatar in the upper right. Click on your avatar in the upper right and click Manage Your Google Account. At this point, you could hunt around in the plethora of settings Google offer, or you could use the search box to jump right to the section we need. I suggest starting a search for simply sign, because we're looking for the sign in nonsense. And if you do a search for sign, you'll see one option, signing in with Google. Select that. And on this page, you'll find a section on signing in with Google as promised. And then I want you to look for Google account sign-in prompts and just shut off that toggle. Now, I suppose it's possible you wanted to be notified of the option to sign in with Google, but it's not something I want, and knowing how to toggle it off puts me in the power seat instead of Google. I'm not judging anybody else's decision on this, but I remember wondering whether sign in with Facebook was a good idea. I've been off the platform for over a year now, so where would I be if I'd connected some of my accounts to my Facebook account? I hope toggling this feature off makes you as happy as it does me. And I did put feature in air quotes. Well, one final tidbit of interest. I didn't know who Ricky Mondello was, but I clicked on his profile on Mastodon and I thought, hey, maybe he's somebody interesting to follow. It turns out he works at Apple. And he's the software engineering manager of Authentication Experience Team. The Authentication Experience Team, I should say. His resume lists a very interesting line item. It says, led cross-functional project to create passkeys, an easy-to-use and more secure replacement for passwords. He even included a link to the video where he explained passkeys to us during the WWDC platform State of the Union. So I guess he has thoughts on authentication. Now, one last bit of irony. I couldn't get the video of him talking at WWDC to play in Safari on my Mac, but Firefox played it just fine.
That's great.
It just hung up. I quit and reopened it a couple times.
Actually,
it wouldn't work.
Chrome. Did Chrome play it fine?
Actually, that's really what I should have done. Oh, good. Ed likes that too. Yeah, it's everywhere. It's driving me crazy. Have you been seeing them, Steve?
I don't think so, and I don't know why. I mean, I don't want to tempt fate, but
Yeah, why
I don't
wouldn't
recall
you?
seeing, and I think I would know. The thing that bothers me, and I can't remember how to disable it, but is Mac OS offering to fill passwords and covering up my 1Password field.
Oh, if there's a way to make that stop, I would really like to know.
I thought there was, but that one
Does anybody
bothers
know?
me.
You know what he's talking about, everybody? Where you try to go, you go to log in and you're all ready to go get your 1Password and it gets covered up with the
With an offer to save it in Keychain or somewhere on the Mac OS.
or get it from Keychain.
Or get it. Yeah, get it.
Oh, you never see the Apple prompt, huh? Yeah, we need that tiny tip.
Yeah.
Lindsay
All
hates
right.
it too.
Next tiny tip.
Yeah. Okay, somebody get to work on that one. All right, let's see. I think Alistair introduces himself, but let's hear. WWDC to play in Safari on my Mac, but Firefox played it just fine.
As is so often the case, I wish to blame Alison for what I'm about to tell you.
All right, I think I should introduce him just in case somebody doesn't know who it is. All right, it's time to hear from Alistair Jenks. Does he have the best voice ever? Thanks.
As is so often the case, I wish to blame Alison for what I'm about to tell you. I've had a project on the boil for a while now which had me seriously considering buying an Elgato Stream Deck. It is entirely Alison's fault, however, that I actually bought one. I bought the Stream Deck Mark II, which is the second version of the 15-key device. It is exactly the same size and, in its stand, sits at the same angle as my Elgato Wave XLR microphone interface. That is also Alison's fault, though she may like to pass blame on that to Marty Sobo for that first review. I've titled this story, in fact series of stories, Stream Deck Down the Rabbit Hole, because that's pretty much what happened once it landed on my desk. I've spent some time working on that project I mentioned, and it will do.
Okay, forget Alistair. Grumpy is showing... I don't hear you for some... Oh, Steve, you're not on screen, so I don't hear you. Password
I
options.
I think Mike's got it.
Seriously,
So this
is that
is
it?
in settings, I assume.
Yeah, so he just did a search for passwords. Passwords are locked. Touch ID.
Passwords. Okay.
Password options, maybe? Yeah. Oh, there it is. There it is.
Password options. Yes.
Oof.
Oh, wait, mine was turned off.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
Wait,
no.
maybe it's only happening on your other Mac.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, that's right. It might be. I'll have to check my other Mac. I can't recall which one, but thank you, Mike. That's a great. Now, are there such a thing as a retro tiny tip?
Mini tips?
Retro tips.
Let's see. What is this called? Home control. All right.
So
My
you're not
journey
gonna
down
play.
the rabbit hole does not end here, as you will note from my extensive use of the past tense. Things have since moved on, but that is for part 2 and part 3.
Well, I can't wait to hear how the rest of this turns out. Now, I know now he's blaming for me for the Stream Deck and for the Elgato Wave XLR. Well, I'm going to blame him for reminding me that Jason Snell says that home control is the best thing ever, because I bought that because of listening to what he said. So I'm hoping to up my game when I get back from my trip and spend some more time in that. All right. Fentoy little tips. Fento? Is Fento a small unit?
Oh, with an FEM. Are you saying N or M?
Oh, Alan wrote femtoily tips. So is femto smaller than like nano?
Yes.
Oh, that's funny.
I think
Alistair
that may
needs
be
to
the
take
next,
over for
step down series factor of 1,000.
ah.
Is it?
Wheel says Alistair needs to take over for Richard Attenborough.
Yes.
I agree. Okay, chapter mark like an animal. All right. Copy link. Okay. Well, even though, actually, I think I cut. Let me go over that. Even though we'll be gone for a couple of weeks and Bart and Alistair are doing all of the work, the bills do go on for keeping the Podfeet podcast going. If you find value in the shows and you want to help keep things running even while we're gone, please head over to podfeet.com/Patreon and consider becoming one of the lovely people who are patrons of the Podfeet podcasts. Oh, Richard died? Oh, I didn't remember that. Did I know that? I don't think I knew that. That might be the shortest pledge break of all time. That was like 20 seconds, 18 seconds. Oh, this is a good one. Oh, that doesn't go there. This is an exciting advancement. I am very excited about this one. Where is it? Oh, there's so many posts are backed up right now because a whole bunch of stuff's already written, waiting. Oh, Rose says David's still alive. Oh, femto is 10 to the negative 15th. Wow. Wait, John says he died in 2014. Rose says he's still alive. Somebody needs to call a tiebreaker. Oh, David Attenborough's alive. Richard Attenborough's dead. Oh, okay. It's not a large number. It's a small number, Kevin. All right, I got to stop reading the show notes and get to work here. Which one did the voiceovers? David Attenborough. Right? Okay. Back in November, I wrote an article entitled The Great Synology Migration of 2022. It was the story of how I bought a second Synology to replace the finally end-of-life Drobo 5N2. In the article, I explained how I used the tried and true rsync protocol to create a backup of each shared folder from my primary Synology to my backup Synology. One of the things I could never do before with the Synology backing up to a Drobo was have the Drobo off-site. They both had to be on my home network because there was no way to do any backups between the two and have it be off-site. But remember me telling you about the magical technology Tailscale? That's the tool that allows me to put multiple devices, including my Synologies, onto a virtual private network while also living on the local network. This means that, in theory, I should be able to move the backup Synology to my buddy Ron's house and continue to run rsync to do the backups. Or so I thought. The reason I haven't told you how I accomplished this right after setting up Tailscale was that I couldn't get it to work until now. For a quick review, in the Synology Disk Station Manager, or DSM, operating system, it includes rsync. It's pretty simple and straightforward to set up. In Control Panel File Services, there's a tab for rsync. You enable rsync on the destination Synology first, so it's ready to accept the syncing to come to it. Then on the source Synology, you create the rsync tasks, which was I did one for each shared folder I wanted to sync. So you say things like, this is the folder, I want to sync it this often, and here's the destination where I want it to sync to. So for each sync task, you do need to point to the destination Synology by IP address. The problem was that if I typed in the Tailscale IP of the remote Synology, I'd get an error when I tried to test the connection in rsync. The field kept reverting back to the local IP address that it used to have, and it's not on my local network anymore. It's at my buddy Ron's house. I verified that both Synologies were on Tailscale, and I could access the remote Synology via the Tailscale IP address from my house, but I simply could not convince rsync that it was a reachable IP address. I reached out to Dave Hamilton, who is the one who taught me about Tailscale in the first place, through the Mac Geek Gab. I used his awesome Discord community to post my question. He offered a few ideas, but nothing panned out. I searched the interwebs until I nearly wore my little fingers down to the nubs. Then I posted the question on Twitter and on Mastodon. I didn't get any traction on Twitter, but Shannon K, also known as Shannon K at bookstodon.com, she's great to talk to about books. Anyway, she suggested the Synology subreddit. It was a great idea because I found several people asking fairly similar questions, but sadly, they didn't find the answer they wanted either. But Shannon's idea prompted me to ask the question in two more places, the Synology forum and the Tailscale forum. I got an answer pretty quickly in the Synology community from a gentleman named Arild Skar, and it was 90% of the solution, but I didn't understand exactly how to implement the solution he suggested. He was right, but I didn't understand him. In the Tailscale forum, Jonas108 started comparing settings with me because he did have it working. After a few times going back and forth, he hit on the problem. He sent me a link to the Tailscale documentation that explained exactly what was going on. The support article is entitled Access Synology NAS from Anywhere, Tailscale, which is exactly what I needed. The opening paragraph of this report says, this support article says, Synology DSM-7, that's the Disk Station Manager operating system, DSM-7 introduced tighter restrictions on what packages are allowed to do. If you're running DSM-6, Tailscale runs as root with full permissions, and these steps are not required. By default, Tailscale on Synology with DSM-7 only allows inbound connections to your Synology device, but outbound Tailscale access from other apps running on your Synology is not enabled. The reason for this is that the Tailscale package does not have permission to create a ton device. I don't know what a ton device is, but in the instructions of that support article, in 8 extremely simple steps, the support article walks you through how to run a user-defined script that Tailscale gives you on installation, and it tells you how to make sure it's run as root on every single boot up of your Synology. As soon as I walked through these steps, when I pointed my rsync task at my remote Synology's Tailscale IP, the test connection worked and my rsync task worked without a hitch. Circling back to Arild from the Synology forum's answer, he told me essentially the same thing. He said there was a permissions problem and he pointed to the same script, but he runs these commands himself manually. He did even tell me I could do it through the same task scheduler that the Tailscale instructions provided, but I didn't know where the task scheduler was in the Synology interface. Turns out it's a control panel. I needed the spoon feeding of the Tailscale instructions. If I have one complaint about people who help each other on Synology is they don't say where stuff is, like the first starting point, like open control panel. They don't say that part. They jump right into the middle of things. And it must be that I'm just not good enough at it yet, but I've been doing it for a couple of years, and I still often don't know where people are talking about starting. Like, what button do I push first before I can see what you're talking about? The other thing is, it's a curiosity to me that in all of my searching of the internets, including the Tailscale documentation itself, I was never able to find these instructions. I mean, I'm really pretty good at searching the internet, and I could not find this on my own. In any case, the community came through for me from Mastodon to the Synology forums to the Tailscale forums, and I am thrilled that I finally have offsite backups running daily of my precious Synology data. And I thank Ron for his bandwidth.
Ron's the man.
He is the man. He's a man. All right.
Oh, Lindsay has a good question.
What'd she say?
Have you talked
Did
about
I talk
the
about the
LastPass
LastPass
breach?
breach? Yeah, not on Chit Chat, but on Security Bits last week. Bart talked about it. Yeah, that was sad. Lindsay's a new 1Password person, right?
I wonder why.
Yeah. You liking it so far? Grumpy, there was a breach. Next thing you know, you'll be claiming that Twitter canceled all third-party Twitter clients. Oh, it was so easy to import from a CSV. Oh, that's good to know. Good. And you got the apps on your iPad, your Mac, and your iPhone? Good. Import went well. Good. All right. Let's see. A little bit longer one. Let's see.
I'm going to put the link to the security bits that has Bart's, your and Bart's discussion.
His assessment.
Yeah.
All right. I am going to bring up photo calendars. Actually, you know what I need to do? I think there's a typo in that last one.
Did you already get the chapter mark? I wasn't looking.
I did, yeah. I'm going to check one thing on that tail scale. Where was it? Where was tail scale? Come on, you can do it. Okay, now I can't find it. Where'd it go?
What are you looking for?
I'm looking for the article. I want to bring it up again.
It's Synology offsite backup. It begins.
Yeah, I found one called, it said and. Yeah, I didn't fix it. It's fixed now. Okay.
Lindsay said she feels like an Android to iOS convert now.
Oh, yeah, everybody's going to tell you how much happier you're supposed to be now. Welcome to the promised land. Oh, I didn't know that. 1Password does it to 100,000. But when they do that encryption, they mix your password with your secret key. So that makes it even better, doesn't it? From what I understand. All right. Here we go. Yeah. The secret key, I think they call it, right? All righty. Here we go. Every year, I make a calendar for my family that includes the very best photos of us for the year. I've been doing it every year since my own kids were little. Everyone loves it, including me. When I started doing it, it was only Steve and me and the 2 kids. But now our family has grown to 10. I used to do one big photo for each month, but as the family expanded, each page is now a collage of 20 thumbnails of photos per month. Now, I used to use the built-in tools in iPhoto to make my calendar. But in 2019, Apple decided to stop providing this capability. They developed an API that allowed third parties to help you create projects like photo books and calendars and more. One of the companies that developed a plugin for photos is called Mimeo Photos. It's actually the company Apple used to use to print their calendars, and the quality of them is fantastic. Now, I wrote all this about Mimeo Photos back in 2019, and I sang its many virtues. At the time, I said I was in love with it, but I think over the years it's mellowed, and I'm kind of in like with it, I would say. It does definitely let me create beautiful calendars that warm our hearts, and that's the most important thing. It does let me have a lot more flexibility with the layouts than Apple's tools ever did. The calendars are simply gorgeous when printed. They're expensive at $35 each after tax and shipping, but again, gorgeous, and my family loves them, so the price is okay with me. This year, I ran into some significant challenges making my calendar, but in the end, I think it showed a better path to success. I have some improvement suggestions for Mimeo Photos, but we'll get to that in a bit. Now, my family embraces the calendar, so we start a shared album every year, and the kids pour funny and awesome photos into this album throughout the year. This year, I had over 460 photos in the shared calendar album to choose from. So that's a good thing and a bad thing, right? Just go back to one on each. One person gets each page. Yeah. Lindsay, Nikki's getting ahead of you. You got to start pouring photos in. She's already got photos in for this year. Album to choose from. So that's a good thing and a bad thing, right? Apple Photos completely failed me, though, in making the calendar. And I'm not entirely sure why. Let's walk through how you create a calendar or other project inside Apple Photos. On the Mac only, not the iPad, if you scroll down on the left sidebar past the stock things like Library, Favorites, Memories, go past Albums, Shared Albums, and My Albums, you'll finally find Projects at the bottom. If you hover over the words My Projects, you'll see a plus button. If you click the plus button next to My Projects, you can see options to create a book, a calendar, a card, wall decor, prints, slideshow, or other. In my case, I chose Calendar. If you don't have any extensions installed, you'll have the option to go to the App Store where you can download different extensions. I have Mimeo Photos installed along with a direct competitor called Motif. Once you tell Photos you want a calendar, you'll be walked through some options by Mimeo Photos or Motif, like what month would you like the calendar to start and for how many months would you like it. I'm going to give you a pro tip if you want to do this. Start it in February and have it be 12 months long, so the last month is January. I used to try to get it done in December, and that was the wrong time to try to cram in a major project. Getting it done in January is much less stressful and more fun. All right, after making a few decisions on the design of your calendar in Mimeo Photos, you're ready to start adding photos to the calendar. And this is where Apple Photos makes it really hard. Remember all of those things we had to scroll past to get to projects at the bottom? You have to scroll all the way back up and grab the album icon for the shared album and drag it into the calendar's photo section. But this year, Photos wouldn't let me add my images to the calendar project in Mimeo Photos. When I tried dragging and dropping, Photos would become non-responsive. Didn't even give me the courtesy of a spinning pizza wheel of death. I had to force quit it to get it to respond. After deleting the calendar project and recreating it 3 times, I abandoned that whole path and decided to give the other calendar option, Motif, a try. I never really got a chance to kick the tires because after creating the project, I couldn't add photos to that calendar either. That got me to thinking it wasn't the extensions that were the problem, but it was Photos itself that was messed up. Now, by the way, I did leave it running for quite a long time waiting to see if it was just the problem was it was too many photos. After force quitting Photos a half dozen times, I was desperate for a solution. Started poking around online, and I was reminded of the fact that you can rebuild your Photos library. I hadn't done that in a while, and I thought that's probably a good idea. I know, I hear it too, that impending doom music, right? Well, first of all, it took better part of a day for it to rebuild my library. With 95,000 photos, I suppose I should have expected that, but it was still torture. But even worse, when it came back to life, everything was working except shared albums. Remember, that's the one thing I need to work for this project. Instead of images in my shared albums, I just had little rectangles with clouds on them. Now, I keep originals downloaded to my laptop, so this did not make any sense. I kept checking back hour after hour, hoping they would have magically arrived, but this went on for days. I was bereft. But then I remembered that iCloud.com should have my originals. This ended up being the first key to my success. Luckily and surprisingly, iCloud.com does have shared albums. iCloud.com doesn't have a lot of other things that you have locally, so I was able to download all of the originals into a folder on my Mac. It's days like this that I'm glad I coughed up the money for a huge SSD. So I now have 2 copies of these 460 photos. And by the way, I know I'm calling them originals. They're actually slightly smaller. They're not as big as you would hope, but they're better. They work for this since I'm doing these little thumbnails. So this was going to be great. So now I've got all the photos on my drive. But that didn't solve the problem of how to get them into the Mimeo Photos extension. I went to the Mimeo Photos website to try to figure out a way around my problem. And guess what? They have a web version, and it's pretty close to identical to the Photos extension. When I say pretty close, the way it differs is that it's way faster to use than the one embedded inside Photos, and you're not crammed into a partial window inside Photos. With the extension, I always feel like I'm in the center seat of a 5-person row on an airplane with my elbows pushed together trying to eat my dinner with a spork, right? Anyway, I mentioned that with our growing family, I just made a funny noise with my nose. A spork, right? Did you catch it, Steve?
Yes.
Were you listening? Okay.
Yes.
I just did a Brian Regan for Steve. Anyway, I mentioned that with our growing family, I started putting 20 images on each page. Mimeo Photos has a layout that gives me a 5x4 grid of squares into which I can drop my photos. Using the Mimeo Photos web app, I can put the window in full screen on my external display and really see how these 20 images look. Now, I have to mark Mimeo Photos down a notch, though, for not taking advantage of that glorious web-based screen real estate when they show you the photos that you imported from which you get to choose. In the extension for photos and in the web app, they give you a narrow column on the right where you can see all of the photos you've imported for the project, but you can only see 2 photos on each row. On the extension, there's a button that allows you to widen that column, which makes the images easier to view, but on the web app, there's no option to widen the column. To be honest, with this giant album of 460 photos, what I really want is to be able to widen the column and have, say, 4 photos across rather than the 2 that they allow you to view. 230 rows of photos to be constantly scrolling up and down through is a real chore. Now, Mimeo Photos allows you to choose to view all photos, used photos, or unused photos. Now, in theory, this is great. If I keep it showing me only unused photos, every month I do should cut down how many photos I have to scroll through by 20. I say in theory because we don't have the most robust process for uploading photos to the shared album, so some photos definitely got uploaded more than once, so unused was a matter of opinion. I'm going to circle back to that thing in a bit. I have another pro tip for you. If you're using a lot of photos, don't try to theme your calendar pages. It is way too much stress. I used to try to make sure only costume photos were in October and make sure I featured a specific person on their birth month. Instead, I go with totally random right from the start. If you restrict yourself to themes, you might end up using a costume photo that's not really all that great when a hilarious one of your granddaughter smashing her face up against a glass window doesn't make the cut. Now, I do have to make sure in the end that I have close to the same number of photos from each family, but I might be the only one who actually pays attention to that. I created a numbers spreadsheet when I was close to done so I could make sure to be fair to both of my kids' families. I mentioned that the page layout is squares, which means a fair number of photos can never be used. Without manually adding black bars, a wide group photo never makes the calendar unless it's worthy of being the cover photo. That limitation actually helped me narrow down the hundreds of images. Now, in Mimeo Photos, you can add an image to the calendar in a lot of different ways. If you first select one of the placeholders in the grid, and then you scroll endlessly till you find a photo that looks like it might be a good fit, you can just tap on it in the scrolling sidebar and it will pop to the pre-selected location. Alternatively, you can find a photo first and then drag and drop it into one of the placeholders. Sometimes you end up with photos on the right page, but you'd like to rearrange them. Easy peasy. Just drag one onto another and they'll swap position. Now, I mentioned in my original Mimeo Photos review that Apple doesn't allow extension developers to have access to undo inside Photos. But in the web app for Mimeo Photos, there's no restriction, so undo is there to save you. Now, remember I said I was keeping a count month to month to make sure I was fairly representing the families? That's it, Lindsay. Actually, there's another one in this year's calendar. That's a previous year.
That's a good one, though.
Oh, my God, she's so funny.
Yeah, that's right. She was quite a bit younger then.
Sienna May is the best. Oh, my gosh. There's another joke coming that you... No, that's fine. There's another joke coming that you're going to crack up. Representing the families. Okay. After I had the calendar mostly done, I realized it favored my son's family dramatically in the first half of the year and my daughter's family dramatically in the second half of the year. Now, if you're thinking I was able to easily fix this, you're a dreamer. The only way to fix it would be to select a photo, remove it with a trash can, scroll to a different month, remove the image that was in that month, then find the first photo amongst the hundreds in the scrolly window because it's now popped back in there and you don't know where it is, and then drop it back in. Then I'd have to find the second photo I removed in that giant scrolly window of doom and then flip pages to the first month that's now missing a photo and drop it in. Now, I know that sounds complicated, but I assure you, it's way worse than hearing it described. It's close to impossible to do this well. Now, one of the reasons it's worse than hearing it as described is that as soon as you remove an image, the scrolly list pops right back to the top. It doesn't leave you where you were. Now, Kyle's family photos ended up mostly in the top half. Lindsay's were mostly in the bottom half. So every time I needed to find one of her family right after deleting one, I had to scroll back down through the hundreds of photos yet again. Luckily, All my kids agreed that if it was overall fairly distributed, they were good to go. Smart kids. All right, getting my initial layout complete took about 3 days of off and on work, but this is the super fun part. I get to laugh at the ridiculous photos my kids put in the album, and I enjoy all 460 of them as I work on the calendar. Once I had my first draft done, it was time for inspection by the family. In recent versions of the plugin for Apple Photos, Mimeo Photos had an option to print a proof version to PDF. Sadly, the web version has no proofing option. My solution was to flip through the pages and take 14 screenshots, one for each month, and the front and back covers. I'm rather pleased with the back cover, by the way. We have a family video call with Steve's mom and dad and all the kids once a month. I take screenshots from time to time, especially if things get silly. I took excerpts from the different screenshots and created a hilarious collage of 20 photos included in the show notes for your entertainment. Lindsay, that's also not the photo. There's another one.
That's right. There's a more recent one. It's just...
That one made last year, too.
That is pretty good, though.
Yeah, there's a third one.
She's got some winners.
And the best part is, you might not realize it, but Sienna absolutely knows she's being funny. This is not, she's not angry. She's doing it on purpose. She can perfectly well open that window. Oh my God, I love her so much. Okay. Back to the point. Back to the plot. Quick drink. Is she angry at the window? I like it. Did I just say it has no proofing option?
By the way, the one you're thinking of is the one that's in this year's calendar, right?
Yeah.
Because I recall seeing it recently.
Yeah, it's from inside. It might be a different window. Or is it always that window?
I don't know which
I'm
one.
sure Lindsay's looking.
Yeah.
You could look too. Your entertainment. All right. I zipped up the 14 screenshots and I dropped the zip file into Dropbox and I asked the family to review the calendar. Now, the inspection rules were 1, make sure I didn't have any duplicates, and 2, if there was a particular photo that they simply loved that didn't make the cut, they could identify a photo of their own family to make a swap. I told Kyle he couldn't replace a picture of Lindsay's kids with one of his own. You know how he is. All right, Kyle and Nikki wrote back with a bunch of fun comments about how much they loved the calendar after reviewing it, and they found nothing wrong. They called out a specific page or two and showed real excitement about it. Steve had seen me working on this over the last week, but he still dutifully went through the whole thing, and he found nothing he thought needed to be changed. And now we come to Lindsay's review. I should mention that Lindsay is a senior manager of quality assurance before telling you her results. She found 4 sets of duplicates and one photo that was triplicated. I didn't notice any of them, but I'd been looking at the same photos on and off for days, but Kyle, Nikki, and Steve didn't catch any of them either. Isn't that hilarious? I told her to tell the story at work because it simply proves that she's in the right line of work. Now, something Lindsay doesn't know. Oh, wait a minute. Lindsay is correcting me live in the live show. She says there were 8 sets of duplicates. No. Well, anyway, that's what she says. But guess what? When the final print came out, there's still a duplicate in it. I'll let you find that one, Lindsay. All right. I'm not sure our process is completely to blame for the duplicates and the triplicate. Remember I said that Mimeo Photos allows you to view the column of photos by unused? When I was fixing one of the duplicates, I noticed that the same photo was still in the unused view, even though it was already in the calendar twice. Who knows? And, I haven't given Lindsay a chance to look back at the photo that I said is still duplicated in the final calendar. It's quite possible it's one she told me about it, and I just messed up and didn't give it. So I don't want to besmirch her quality assurance name here, but I think she missed it. Anyway, once I had the duplicates and triplicates fixed, it was time to make my orders. I sent out 5 calendars to 5 different addresses. I dread this part of the project every year because in order to send 5 calendars to 5 different addresses, the Mimeo Photos plugin for photos makes me upload the entire calendar with all of those images embedded 5 separate times. It takes forever. But guess what? If you use Mimeo Photos via the web, the data's already up there. I didn't have to upload it even once. No more uploading over and over and over again. I did buy all 5 separately, so I did have to go through and put the addresses in and pay separately, but they take Apple Pay, so it wasn't nearly as painful. I have to say, that delighted me. The bottom line is that I'm in serious like with Mimeo Photos. I will change that back to love if they make it easier to navigate and track a vast set of photos in the future. Until then, they give 4 stars from me. I do give a big thumbs up to the web interface for Mimeo Photos over the plugin to Photos. The only downside to the web version is that you can't print a proof of your project, but the good news is that the web app is so much more responsive. Flipping between pages is so much faster than it is inside the Photos extension. And the huge upside to the web app is not having to upload my project 5 separate times to send it to 5 different people. And finally, I love my family. This calendar is filled with the silliest and most precious captures. I also realized that my family sticks their tongues out a lot. I have no idea where they get that. Oh my gosh, is that Sienna? That's it. That's the one. Oh my gosh, you got a picture of her too.
Oh my
What is your nickname for her, Steve?
Big face. Well, no, that's not.
No,
Cornball.
Cornball.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
She's the cornball.
I need that photo, Lindsay.
Now, did you tell the audience about the one restriction that the web app version of Mimeo Photos, all of the photos you use are going to be commercialized and sold?
Yeah. Wait, what? I hope not. All right. Okay. Oh my gosh, that picture is priceless. Okay. All right, well, that's going to wind us up for this week. Did you know you can email me at allison@podfeed.com anytime you like? From what we are led to believe, we think we will have internet access throughout this trip. We've got an eSIM for Argentina. See how that works. Probably be a review on whether that worked or not. And we have Wi-Fi in the hotels, and there's actually satellite Wi-Fi on the ship. But I probably won't be downloading big files or uploading big files or anything like that. But if you do want to chat, I should be available online when I get a chance to play on my computer and I'm not outside playing with penguins. Anyway, if you have a question or suggestion, you could just send it on over. But don't send me any reviews until later because I can't do anything with them. So you can follow me on Twitter. Well, wait a minute. Can you follow me on Twitter? It's a little hard to tell these days. If you use a third-party client, you can't follow me on Twitter, and I'm not doing much there. To be honest, I'm doing most of the fun stuff over on Mastodon, and I'm at Podfeet at chaos.social. If you want to join the fun in the conversation, you can join our Slack community at podfeet.com/Slack, where you can talk to me and all of the other lovely Nosilla castaways, even Bart and Alistair. Remember, everything good starts with podfeet.com, and you can support the show at podfeet.com/Patreon or with a one-time donation at podfeet.com/PayPal. Remember, there will be no live show for the next 2 weeks, but on February 4th, if you want to join in the fun of the live show, head on over to podfeet.com/live at 5 p.m. Pacific time and join the friendly and enthusiastic Nosilla castaways. Thanks for listening and stay subscribed. Whew. Got it.
So Mike is wishing you good luck with the barrel. Is Mike the one that gave you the guidance on how to get that working?
Yeah, he wrote the original article.
Yeah,
and then Jill has been helping me with it too, because I started to feel bad about how many times I asked Mike the same questions. But I told Mike your great idea. So if you guys remember this, Mike did the travel router from Barrel, where he said to one of his tips was to set the Wi-Fi on the SSID to your home network Wi-Fi, so that when you get to a distant location, none of your devices have to authenticate because they all know the password to that. You set the SSID and password to it. But it's really hard to test at home when you've got 2 of them on the same network with the same SSID twice. So Steve had a great idea. He said, why not set it to a different Wi-Fi that all your devices know, and all of our devices know Lindsay's network. So our travel router is actually set to Lindsay's network. So I think that's great. Worked out great.
Hope you don't mind, Linz. If for some reason your Wi-Fi signal is really strong and you see our devices show up all of a sudden, you'll know why.
All right. Let's see. I need to drop in. Oh, we're probably getting close to a chapter mark, dear. I think there are quite a few. He's not talking, so he must be counting.
Oh, you mean a chapter mark count?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 6.
All right. I
And
have.
stay subscribed. Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 with support the show. Yes.
Those were big numbers you had to add up there.
Yeah, tough. Well, I'm not a QA director, senior
Yeah.
director.
Lindsay, did you notice that there's a duplicate photo in the final calendar?
What the heck's going on?
I bet you did tell me about it. That's why I slipped that in just in case that wasn't your fault. Yep, that'll be us. Oh, you just got it today. Oh, good. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you where it is. You got to have some fun with it. All right. I am ready to export the show. And save. There we go. Text expander stock just soared? Why? Why did text expander stock soar?
Maybe because of all the posts that Kevin and Alan are doing.
I don't know. Oh, that's what it is. Maybe that's it. Yeah, Kevin, you haven't done a recording in a really long time, You used to do a podcast, so I know you know how to do it. I know you got a microphone. Not that I'm shaming you right now into it.
Right. There's no shame, Kevin.
Me record? What be worry? Well, I think we probably got to say goodbye, Steve.
Yeah, I think we do. It's probably at least for a couple, 3 weeks.
Miss you guys for a couple of weeks.
Yeah. It won't be the same. Well, think about you on Sunday nights
Thanks,
at 5
Lindsay.
p.m. Well, actually,
John says, see you next week. John, you're just trying to get Alan to write that some more, are you? Alan, tell him again. Well, goodbye, everybody.
goodbye.
Bye, Rose.
Night, Gracie.
Stay warm. We have enough clothes, that's for sure.
We're out.